welcome back to Open Line. We are breaking down TennCare's block grant proposal. And we had a couple calls talking about concerns with Social Security disability, that people are barely getting by now. And when you start talking about saving money, as those who support this proposal talk about, they're worried it's going to cut into their already difficult situations. There are some enhancing benefits, I guess, right? I guess talk about some of those and how that could help somebody like our last caller, Darnell. I guess we don't know yet, but what about some of those?
So one of the flexibilities that TennCare is asking for is to be able to spend these Medicaid dollars in ways that we're not really allowed to spend them today. So now, you have to spend them on medical care, but we know that health is about a lot more than just health care. People's lives they're not in these little silos of like, my health care is over here and my food's over here. If you don't have the resources to pay for nutritious food or to pay your rent or what have you, that's going to impact your health outcomes. I mean, she talked about transportation. We know that transportation can be a huge impediment to staying healthy, to getting to the doctor, to getting your medications, getting your food, all those things. So one of the things that TennCare talks about wanting the flexibility to do is to use Medicaid dollars in ways that enhance health, not just health care. And they talk about, we call them the drivers of health, but they're things like housing and nutrition. We know there are experiments going on sort of all over the country where health systems are looking at especially people, say, with diabetes, and they're helping them with their nutrition, with their meal plans, and can they get their diabetes under control if they're eating the right things? Well, could Medicaid or TennCare play some role in that, and could they use dollars for that purpose? I mean, so that's an example of how it's possible that Medicaid dollars could be used to sort of enhance the benefit and help people's sort of the holistic person and all the things that impact health. I mean, on the flip side of that, you have people that are concerned that sort of opens it up, that those TennCare dollars can be used for all kinds of things that aren't directly related to medical care or health care in the traditional sense, and those would represent sort of diverted dollars from these services that people need. And so that's another example where both sides have a point here, and what can we do to sort of, what could they do to maybe tighten that up and allay some of those concerns? I'm not sure what the answer to that question is.
And all right, we're at a point now where we're really moving forward with this debate. Where are we on dates?
Right.
What's happening? What has happened, and what happens next?
Right. So the legislature passed a bill this last session earlier this year that directed the administration to submit this proposal to the federal government by November 20th. So before that submission date, we have to check some boxes, talking about the strings that come attached to the federal dollars. We have to check some boxes that the federal government requires. And so what has happened already is sort of a first draft has come out. We call it the opening bid because this will all be a negotiation between the state and the federal government. So this first draft came out about 5 or 6 weeks ago. There was a 30-day comment period, so it was put out to the public. People were invited to send in comments. They held 5 public sessions where people could come and share those comments in person. That comment period ended about a week ago. So now TennCare is working on going through those comments. I think they said they got about 1,700 comments. So they're going through those comments, trying to digest them, understand them, how they want to respond to them, because what they'll have to do now is sort of revise their proposal, submit it to the federal government. Along with that submission, they have to submit all those comments and responses to those comments. The federal government will say thank you, make sure that it's complete. They'll post it on their website. There will be another 30-day public comment period. This time people will be submitting comments to the federal government, not just to the state. And then the federal government will receive those comments, and the negotiation will begin. We have no idea how long that negotiation might go on for. We have no idea how the federal government will respond to it. But let's say that they come to some sort of agreement. That agreement would have to come back to the legislature. The legislature would have to approve it before it could go into effect.
And we don't know. But it could happen this year. It could happen this legislative session. But it could not happen.
It's very unlikely, but
it is unlikely that it
I
would
mean,
happen.
so we already have several requests sitting with the federal government, and some of them have been sitting there for over a year already, and those haven't been approved yet. There's nothing that requires them to go in order. That's for certain. So, you know, who knows?
Okay. And this is something Tennessee is proposing to the federal government. Are other states doing this? How unusual is this?
Well, I will say that Tennessee is in a unique position in that we are sort of producing these savings for the federal government under this baseline that we're already under this cap. So I think we're looking, you know, we as in the state of Tennessee, the state government is looking to sort of capitalize on this situation that Tennessee is in. I think we are the first state that has proposed something this large that would impact pretty much the whole program. Some other states have looked at smaller pieces. I think generally the block grant concept has been around for many years. This is a little different than the traditional one. So I think, you know, depending on what happens with Tennessee, you may see other states looking to get sort of the same kind of deal if it's possible for them.
So this really, we're on the cutting edge here. We're not following. This is
right, yeah,
pretty unique to Tennessee.
Yeah.
And it hasn't been done before. So we don't know what the federal government will say or how it's going to go.
As we say over and over again, unprecedented.
And we right now don't know. So TennCare will submit this, and right now they're writing it, and they've just received all these public comments. I'm sure within those public comments, 1,700 or whatever you said, someone said you should add some specifics here and there.
Right.
And we don't know if they're going to do that or not.
Right. I mean, you heard a lot of that. I went to one of the public hearings, and you heard a lot of that in the things that people were standing up and saying, like, I'm not sure how to comment on this because there's just not enough there for me to know what might happen. We really need more assurances. We need more specifics. We need more questions answered.
Well, that would have to concern them if people are standing up there saying, I would like to comment on it, but I just don't have enough specifics. So that is a little disconcerting. So that's okay. So there you go, TennCare. Take care of that. All right, we'll take a break. We'll be back right after this.